All right, now listen up. This is another one of the interviews. No, this isn't a local interview. I didn't go down and find someone from the homeless shelter outside of my local Safeway. No, and this isn't one of the big international interviews. I wasn't over there with Trump and everybody in the EU and Davos. No, this is kind of in the middle ground. This is what we call the interesting interviews. If you think you're tuning into one of the interviews and on the podcast where my wife beats the shit out of me for an hour, no. You're on the wrong podcast. That's not this one. No. This is something completely different. These are the ones you actually like to listen to. Now, listen, I think the best way to give this man an introduction, first I will tell you his name is John Reddick. I have made his acquaintance through Will Padilla. You guys all listened to the Will Padilla interview that we did, and I really had no idea who John was. I didn't have any idea that I'd be interviewing, but at the end, Will said, here's $12. Please get my friend John on your show. I said, well, for $12, I will do whatever you want, Will. So for $12, your family can be on the podcast too. That's how important and highly I think of myself. I will sell myself for $12. But I started looking into John Reddick. He's one of the co-hosts on Will's show, the 80s Now. Not only is he part of a great chemistry of a team there that gives you this wonderful podcast, but some of the things that he does on his own, absolutely. Now, I hate to say they can change your life. That may be a little bit strong, but I'm not missing the mark by much. I want to get into what he does, how he got here, but let's introduce you. John, tell us a little bit about yourself as we begin the show.
Hey, that's a quite a lead in there. I'm not sure anything I could say could possibly.
All right, well then we'll call it a night.
That was a great interview, right? Thank you for inviting me on. Yeah, as you noted, I'm a co-host on 1980s Now along with Will and Kat, and that was really the most recent entry in my pantheon of overworking myself, quite honestly. I used to work in broadcasting as a young man. I left broadcasting to work in product development. But as soon as I did that, back in like 2009 or something, I quickly realized I missed creating something. I used to work in local news and broadcasting, and I missed that, And so not too long after that, in 2017, I just said, people are doing this thing on YouTube, but wouldn't that be fun to try? Because I saw a lot of kids looking at nostalgic games and toys, and I'm like, that's not nostalgia. That's just my stuff. Like I have that in the closet.
Yeah,
I thought it might be interesting.
Talking about your childhood there,
Yes, exactly.
Well, you have two things out right now, maybe more, but I caught up on the Gen X Grown Up, and then there's one that I'm confused about a little bit. And I want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
It was Celebrating Yesteryear. But it says it was on Retro Days. Is it okay?
That's
Are you
right.
part of some other channel, or is that just the name of the channel? And then Celebrating Yesteryear is what you do.
Yeah, I'm involved in a great many channels as you meet people. Doing content creation is it's something that you start meeting people along the way who are similar. I mean, you're looking for an audience, but along the way you end up finding collaborators and other folks who are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, and you make friends. That's how I met Will and Kat over at 1980s Now. I met the folks at Retro Days through the course of creating content for my own brand, Gen X Grown Up, which is the YouTube channel and the podcast and on our site and stuff. And we just really hit it off, and they were doing a thing over there. And I'm like, so I'm a host on Celebrating Yesteryear for Retro Days, much like co-host for another podcast. It's my side hustle to what used to be my side hustle.
Well, let me stop you right there before you go further. We're talking about, because I want everybody to write that down right now. Listen to the interview, listen to the podcast, but write down Celebrating Yesteryear. And I need you to go there, because there is something so unique about how you do this. And I mean, I skim around the internet like anybody. I look at things, I pick up on things, I like and I subscribe, and I follow the things that I think are cute and clever and interesting. But there was something about yesteryear that hit me. You don't, gosh, it's almost like you do it as a documentary. You have a voiceover content, but you don't just show, here's Rock'em Sock'em Robots, man. If you want to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Oh, wait, you know what? I have the commercial from 1975, and then that's it. That is not what you do at all. You blend those type of things together with insight. And I'll tell you something that I picked up on. I went through a bunch of your videos. I almost couldn't stop watching them. I'll tell you, as far as retro vibes go, nostalgia goes, you on different things where you've been interviewed and the things you have said, little hints that you drop. I don't know if anybody picks up on them but me, but that's how my dumb brain works. You tie into the sounds of the video game. You make me remember that moment in my childhood. When I watch your videos and you bring up things that are obscure but familiar to me, all of a sudden I'm there. I go, wait, I got that when I was 10. I remember the wrapping paper that it came in. I remember where I was sitting when I opened it.
Isn't that wonderful? What a powerful drug that is for free.
Yeah. How are you doing that? How'd you come up with, because it's so different than those 1 minute videos you scroll by and they have music. No. What you do is completely different. You got to give me a little bit of insight on how much time and effort it takes to make one of those videos and how you even come up with the detail and the format to put everything in an order that never lets me let go. I don't want to stop watching. You got to give me something here. Help me out, John.
I don't know if I'm worthy of all of that wonderful critique, but I mean, I'll tell you, I was never a journalist. I worked with great journalists for 20 years in broadcasting. I worked as a technician behind the scenes, right? I would do voiceover work here and there, but I wasn't the journalist. But I learned from great people who were journalists. I wasn't the editor, but I learned from great editors because I was putting their work on the air every night and went, look what they did that's so good, you know? And whether I'm hosting Celebrating Yesteryear or I'm looking at a 1983 VFD Defender game that I found at a pawn shop or whatever, my goal is to always try to tell a story. That's what I learned working with great editors and journalists is it's one thing to go, here's the thing, it came out in 83, here's the commercial, like you said, but some people say it's boring, but I want to tell a story. I want to tell you the context, why it matters to me. Man, when I was a kid, my buddy down the street had this. That tells you nothing about the game, but it sets you up for this narrative. And then, my buddy never showed me you could get Extra Man this way. And, and then you get to the end, you've been taken somewhere. And along the way, you got to relive a toy that you had or maybe didn't have.
Well, you using that analogy, that story right there is that you come to find out, it's like, God, I wanted to go back down there. I didn't have that one. My friend had that game. I didn't have that game, but I could only play it when he was home. And everybody has some version of that.
Yeah.
Everybody's got some version of, because you don't ever have everything as a kid. Somebody's always got something different than you. But whatever it is, you make me not want to look away until the credits start rolling every time. I mean, every time. Thank you for burning up a whole day of my time, because you did. And I couldn't look away. It's really something on how you do that. How do you choose? There's so much from our childhood. How do you pick?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So when I started doing YouTube, which was the first thing I did in 2017, it literally was just a hobby, as I mentioned, to scratch that itch of creating content for someone to see, because I just missed that, And it was a hobby that myself and my two friends, George and Mo, teamed up with me, and we dabbled a little bit. It was just a hobby. It was a thing we did. We'd go to conventions together and get a table and, hey, here's who we are, and beg for subscribers and that kind of thing. But in November of 22, I got laid off. I was made redundant from a job I'd had for 16 years. And I had lots of job offers, but the reality was my hobby was something that gave me way more joy than whatever job I had or possibly could go and get. So I decided to take the savings I had amassed plus a little bit of revenue we were making. And then I always said, I wish I could do this every day. And so then I'm like, well, you're going to talk, you're going to fish, what are you going to do now at this point? So I decided to take a gamble. And what that resulted in is putting in reps, anything to be a great pianist, to be a great author, to be a great whatever, putting in the reps to do X number of, we started a podcast in 2017. It was terrible, but I have over 700 reps now. It's not a bad podcast now,
Yeah.
And it all came down to the origin. I'll tell you, Mark, that you didn't ask about, but I'll tell you is I used to have regular poker buddies who would come over once a month. We'd all play poker. And one good friend of mine looked around my house at all the tchotchkes and collectibles and said, can you imagine if like the 12-year-old version of you showed up at your house, how freaked out he would be? And that was a kernel that ended up when I said, hey, let's create something. I decided my Gen X childhood was something that thankfully my family and wife never made me feel that I had to grow out of.
Yeah.
I could continue. I can still be a grown-up, responsible adult who pays the mortgage, and I can still play Pac-Man. You know, they aren't mutually exclusive.
Yep.
So they've allowed me to get into that. So literally, I cover. You ask, how do I get the ideas for things?
Yeah.
I cover something that makes me excited or interested. Now, sometimes I do videos to pay the bills. You know, hey, this guy would like to send you this thing to review. Certainly, I'll do that.
Sure.
But I'm going to do that by telling a story, by giving my own personal relationship to that thing wherever possible, because ultimately I want to be a storyteller by doing content creation. And that's a way you can do it and sneak it in. You know, it's not, here's the story and that's what you're here for. You're probably here to look at a toy, and turns out you.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that you've got, it appears to me, looking from the outside looking in, you've got a format, you have a design, you've got a palette ready to go that you've almost perfected. And I'm sure you would disagree with you've perfected it. I'm sure you would disagree and say you're constantly evolving. I get that. But you can literally take a toy, any toy, any object, if you find it interesting, and plug it in to your format and begin your storytelling. I think that's you've overcome the biggest part of it. Now you just have to go and pluck out of the universe things that are interesting, because you've got your part down, my friend. You got your part down solid. I like it a ton. Now, before we go any further, I need to let everyone know who's listening before the video version comes out. The greatest thing John has going for his podcast, going for anything he does on Celebrating Yesteryear, is his background. That's really the only reason I'm here. I'm looking over his shoulder right now, and the things in his background in his studio, that's the best part of what he's got going on. I don't want to, I want to tell you that he got some good stuff with the stories, but when you watch it, you're just glued to the background, picking apart every little thing. In fact, if I lose train of thought, if I'm not paying attention to you, that's why, because I'm looking at what you got in the background. And you almost look like one of those collectors who has spent $600,000 and has the coolest stuff you can never find, because some of the things I think I can identify from my childhood, going, okay, I don't have that. I got blank spaces behind me. No, it's really good stuff. You guys got to see. We encourage you to watch the video version over and over again, just to spend time zooming in and looking at the things he's got there. I do want to say that I think one of the things you touch on, and I brought up the sound before because you've brought that up yourself. You've brought up things. I've watched some interviews that you've conducted, that you've been part of, and you bring up how a sound from a video game can just take you back, like a sound you haven't heard in decades. That's right. I think you're the only person bringing that up. I like playing the games. I like seeing stuff. I like it when you do a review. You did a review on a little plug and play Galaga thing. I like that. But you really pay attention to the detail of the game and see if it matches up to our childhood, yours and mine, and the sounds especially. That's part of nostalgia that I think you bring people back with the sound of a video game. Some people could listen to your podcast or something you're doing on a video, and they could close their eyes and it would still have the same impact. You really do a good job at bringing that right back down there. I don't think anybody's doing that online the way you are. And I want to thank you for that, because you've given me some great memories just in the short time I've had to go back over your stuff, John.
Well, first, you're welcome. And secondly, thank you for the kind words. I at some point, I'll tell you the interesting thing about, the thing about doing YouTube initially, I was trying to do YouTube like I did television, we're going to cover everything. And on Tuesdays, we'll talk about movies. And on Wednesdays, we'll talk about pop culture or whatever. And what you quickly find out is if you want to succeed, YouTube will tell you the kinds of videos it wants you to do. And ultimately, what it rewarded us with the most was when we did retro gaming, which is fine. It's one of the many things I love about growing up in my era, but it wasn't the only thing I wanted to talk about. But when you did something that wasn't, so I'm very happy to allow the channel to kind of evolve into talking about retro gaming. But when I realized retro gaming was, and I used to push back against this, my colleagues were like, y'all just focus on one thing. I'm like, no, it'll work. But when I realized I was going to focus on this one thing, the thing that got me started in the first place was, this is my stuff. It's not, hey, do you guys remember in the 40s when they had the whatever, the mashed potato, whatever dance was? I don't know what dance.
Right.
If you weren't there living it, you don't know, oh, that move's not right or that note is not right. And so I've always been kind of any of my friends listening will tell you this is a gross underestimation, kind of a nitpicker, kind of a stickler for detail. I decided, let me lean into that. Why try to hide that? Let me lean into, because I am a stickler. If I hear something that's a little bit off, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound quite right. And I'm not sure everyone was listening to it with that much detail. They would say, oh, it's a Pac-Man toy. Great. And they just took it on face value. I want to hear, just like you have smells that just snap you back in time.
Sure.
I know that if the sound is right, it's more than just, oh, look, I can eat a pellet. It's the sound, the squeaky sound of that pellet, the siren getting louder and faster, and all of that plays into. Remember being in the arcade and it was 1,000 games making this horrible noise that was like, but you knew just every symphony.
But you knew every game when you walked in there. You could hear all the ones. Right. You could hear. I'll narrow it down one better because you just brought this to my mind. Everybody hears there's 80s channels, there's 90s channels, there's 70s music all over the place, and we all remember what we were doing. Oh, I remember that song. I remember that album. I remember where I was. But we get a lot of that. We've gotten a lot of that. I'm not saying people are numb to it. They're not. I still listen to songs and feel the same way. But you're the only guy doing it with video games. You're the only guy bringing back. Other than us being able to go along with you and handle it and touch it in person, which we can't do through a video, but everything else about that toy or everything else about that game, and especially the sounds, you bring to us. And that's something we don't get every day as we're scrolling around. We don't get that. It's very unique what you're doing. It's completely different. And it grabs you in a way that maybe 80s music did when it first came out on the internet, and you'd go to those 80s channels and listen, and we were all very impressed. That's what you're doing right now with your nostalgia. It's absolutely something. I got to tell everybody on all of our shows to go listen, go watch 5 videos of yours. Just give them 5 videos and say if you're not hooked. That's how confident I am. Well, excuse me. Do you know any of those video game collectors? Do you know anybody in person that has spent the $500,000 over their lifetime and just got wall to wall, like they're looking for specific game cartridges and things?
Oh, I do know some of those guys. Yeah, they're not the multimillionaire kind of guys, but yeah, I definitely, there's some. You just meet people, right? So I've met John Hancock, who's a huge NES, Super Nintendo collector. He takes his exhibits on tour.
Wow.
And a couple of the YouTubers I've met who they go out on hunts looking for that specific. Oh, I don't yet have this one's in a box or it's manual or whatever, because they need them all of whatever collections that they have. Yeah, I've never been. I'm a niche completionist. Like I don't need everything of everything. But they're like, I want everything of a bunch of little tiny pockets, right? Like,
gotcha.
I don't need all those action figures back, but I do need Steve Austin, Maskatron, and Oscar Goldman. I don't need, I need every single of everything, but they're the crown jewels, the most important kind of things, like, yeah, I love that. Something else you had mentioned is really funny. It resonated with me, and I never thought about it the way you kind of laid it out. How the analyses on sound is that I get more than my fair share of comments. A lot of people go, great video. Hey, I love this. Very nice. That was fun. But then you get the ones that are like, oh my God, mind blown, memory unlocked. This is the best thing I've seen all day. I think I cried halfway through. You can't, look, I'm trying to do this to make a living, but you can't put a dollar value on realizing you gave someone that.
Yeah.
That hits you right in the gut. And it's like, oh, I feel so good that I picked up this stupid thing at a flea market, and then I bothered to wash it up and clean it up and show you the process. And I put batteries in it, and it worked, and we got excited. For a lot of people, it's good. For somebody, it's emotional and important.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I love those moments.
You can collect some dollars on it if you can get successful on YouTube, and that's great. And that's what you need to pay your bills. You got to keep the lights on. I get that. But when you reach even one person on that level, and you can tell that you connected with them, it's almost worth it. It's almost worth all the hours you put in. It's like, okay, I know you're getting a few bucks for it and you get paid, but you look at those connections and think, God, nothing's better than that feeling. except maybe the feeling they had, when you unlocked that memory for them.
Right. Right.
Now, let me ask you this. How old are you? I think I think I'm older than you, but I don't know by how much.
I was born in 69, so I'll be
Okay.
57 this year and 56 now.
All right. So I was born in 67.
Okay.
So we're at the tail end of that. So we're on the same track. Now, I'm going to ask you some very important questions here, John. And I think if you lie, I'm going to be able to know. And there are right answers here. So if you get the wrong answer, I'm going to have to correct you as your elder Gen Xer here in the room. I want you to know that. So
I defer then to your knowledge.
What did you think when Intellivision came out after Atari had been kind of running the show for a while? And then, there was some other gaming things before that. Of course, I don't want to go all the way back to Pong or Vectrex or things like that. I'm kind of skipping over some of that. Atari was the first real big one that kind of just went worldwide. But I remember when Intellivision came out. What did you think of that yourself?
Yeah. Well, the Atari 2600 was my first love. It wasn't my first console, it was my first love. It was the first one that I'm like, oh, identify with this, this is, and I was deep in that ecosystem. And so when Intellivision was introduced by Mattel and George Plimpton was out there showing you how great the football was, and I was jealous a lot, but it's the Coke or Pepsi thing. You had to pick one side or the other. It's a Ford Chevy thing. And back then, your parents held the purse strings and they didn't understand, hey, there's a new video game system. No, you have a video game system.
Yeah.
So it was like a water heater. We have a water heater. Why don't you buy a water heater?
That's right.
No, it does different stuff. So I was very jealous when that came out. I never had the opportunity to play with it until recently in my life, in the last 10 years. And I'll tell you, the nice thing about that is that the Intellivision, it turns out, so matches the vibe of what the Atari had that it's like you had this love of your life when you were young, and now later in life you found out she had a twin girlfriend.
Wow.
I get to know this person too.
Yeah.
It's like amazing. I never got to know this other almost identical person that was using similar technology and putting out similar types of games, better and worse in different areas.
Sure.
I was just jealous. I was jealous of Intellivision, and I kind of eassued it, though I shouldn't have.
Because it had the disc. It didn't have the joystick. That was a whole different thing for me. You had to hold it completely different. So, I had to fight with that. But yeah, and I didn't have one. My friend down the street had one, and I couldn't play it unless he was home. It was one of those things. Now, let's go to the Atari 2600, since you said that was the first love of your life. When Asteroids came out, I thought, all right, this is not like the arcade version.
Yeah.
The big pink and blue Asteroids, but I did very much enjoy playing Asteroids. I need to know how you felt about Pac-Man when it came out for the Atari 2600.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Asteroids. I got to real quickly say,
go ahead.
I think the 2600 version of Asteroids in so many ways is superior to the arcade game because it gives you so much more to do and so many more options, which is blasphemy for some people, but
no, I loved it.
Fair.
I loved playing. I would play that all day and night. That was a go-to game for me. Yeah, if I was bored or couldn't sleep or something, I was always there. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But
so Todd Fry's Pac-Man. I mean, I know what he went through in hindsight. Even remember, I told you I'm kind of a nitpicky kind of a person. I think even as a kid, I was reading gaming magazines and I wondered what did the graphics look like for this thing or this thing, and sometimes they'd mock them up in the magazines and they didn't look as good when you got them, right?
Yep.
So even then I was aware enough to know that it was nowhere near what I was hoping for and was expecting. And I was certainly crestfallen when I got it. What I will tell you is I didn't put it away. I continued to play it. What I've realized later in life is that it's not a very good version of Pac-Man. But taken on its own merits, there is a great game there that is a maze chase game. I spent too much energy in 82, 83 when I got it, focusing on what it was not in terms of a good translation.
Yeah.
I missed out on what it does have to offer, which is something in its own right that probably suffered because it was trying to be shoved into a square hole.
I am with you on that 100%. In fact, I was so upset I didn't play it after the first day. I didn't go back for a long time. Like, this is dumb. This is not what was on the box. This is not what was on the cartridge. This is not Pac-Man. And I was so upset by that when I remember physically walking away going, what a ripoff. I was so mad. And now you're right. When you look back on it, you're like, you know what? Okay, it's a different game. It's a
Yeah.
different version of Pac-Man, and maybe I've learned to accept different variations of games over the years, and you play them for what they are. Because you know what? I used to play board games. You could play a board game of something, and you were just as happy with it as a board game. It had no graphics at all. It was just whatever you made of it in front of you, and I was just as enthralled. But I could not. There was a few I couldn't get past. And that was Asteroids was an easy sell for me all day
Yeah.
long. What was your absolute favorite game on there? On the
Yar's
2600?
Revenge. Howard Scott Warshaw.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that answer ready, locked and loaded.
Oh, that was easy. Favorite game on there, followed closely by Adventure by Warren Robinette with the
Wow.
Easter egg that you can find and unlock the wall. Yeah.
Yep. As there was Ready Player One made prominent note of that for us too.
That's right. Yeah. It was like, and finally, I'm not the only one that knows about this. The rest of the world can know about it too.
That's right. Well, then you look around and go, wait, did you guys know? Oh, you did? Because I knew, but we all had the
We just
same
didn't talk
childhood?
about it.
I didn't know that. You knew. I didn't know you knew. Yeah, you again, and your podcast, your shows on you do a lot of that. You bring together things like, well, how does he know about that? I know about that. Oh, same childhood. That's right. It's amazing how we all have a common denominator like that. It really is. Let me ask you something about, now you've got, it's not just celebrating yesteryear, but you do Gen X, Gen X Grown Up. Have you ever put out an episode that you thought on either one of those that you thought this is going to be a hit? This is going to be this segment was great, and it just tanked and didn't go anywhere at all, and you were sure it was going to do well?
Well, so celebrating yesteryear on Retro Days, I'm a hired gun for. So I take care of the hosting job, but I have no decision making process over what we're going to cover, what we're going to do. So I host, right? We have a writer, we have an editor, and I'm happy to do that as a contribution. Gen X Grown Up is me.
Yeah,
that's mine. So the quick answer to your question is always, oh yeah. All the time that happens, you might work your butt off on something. Hey, anyone thinking about YouTube? You know how they say, build it and they will come? That's bullshit. People love to quote that movie. That's not how it works. They're not just going to show up because you spent 8 hours editing it. They're not going to show up just because you spent you had to drive somewhere to take some video. People are going to watch what interests them. And early on, certainly I said, I want to do this because it interests me. That's something you can do later in the life of a channel.
Yeah.
But early on, I was branding things with my brand, Gen X Grown Up. And you realize neither knows nor cares what that is. They want to see what your video is about. I had the tail trying to wag the dog and it doesn't work. So there was plenty of creations early on well, this is my magnum opus, right? This is going to set me over the top and set me up for life. 135 views later, you're like, well, hell, that is not what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
exactly.
You kind of almost want to pull it down and go, sorry about that, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I don't know what I was thinking either. I didn't.
But you have them the other way too, Mark. You have, here's this. And now I'm finding, having done this now 9 years, 4 of them as my full-time occupation, I've certainly found that if there is something that you find that you're very interested in and you can present it in a way that it's clear what it's about, what you deliver is what you promise, and then you can present it the way you want in that story format that I do. It was just before Christmas, I found this weird little toy at the World Market and went, this is stupid. I've got to take it home and do it.
Is this Tron, the Tron one?
No, this was a Pac-Man plug and play of all things.
I
have 20 of them,
like the Galaga one with that company. Sure, I remember. I saw that. Yeah,
and so I took it home, and I was surprised it was better. Then it got tons and tons of views. The manufacturer reached out to me and said, "Hey, we saw you did a video on our thing. Can we talk?" And we now have a new relationship and a potential new advertiser. And it was just from
those are ones.
It wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, that's the one you're just like, you know what, this is fun. I'm just going to throw it out there. Call it filler. Right. Oh, this will be my thing for the weekend. No big deal. It's not bad.
I'll get back to regular videos later.
Yeah, and then there it is. You turn around and it's got 6 times the views that your last 3 did. That's that's a tough one because you can't figure it out. There's no rhyme or reason to what people that I've found yet. You just have. I think the thing that I'm locked in on mostly, and I'm gonna fanboy on you a little bit in a minute, not right now, so don't get excited. But you're right. You built a structure, you built a framework that you can plug things into, and if you do it right, it's going to work. And this goes for celebrating yesterday. It goes for Gen X. Grown up, I listen to those things, and I see how you conduct yourself in that, and how there's a way that you bring little things out that other people don't. It's odd, but you do it every time. That's the consistency. So now you just have to hunt for topics, or a guest, or an item, and you're down the road. You're ready to go. All you have to do is thumb through a Rolodex until you find something that catches your eye. The framework's already there. I like that a ton. That's a huge thing for me. What's the best part of doing your show, do you think, when you do Gen X Grown Up? What do you like the best about it?
Oh, well, I mean, the bottom line is creating something that other people see. That was at the root of it, what I was missing when I left broadcasting. I wanted to do that. So I'm not the most photogenic guy, so I don't like shooting so much. I'm a better editor than I am a talent, but I'm the only talent I've got. But frankly, releasing video and watching it resonate with people, seeing comments. Someone once, I forget where I heard, when you first start doing creation, you end up looking for people to tell you how to do it right. And one thing that stuck with me that was true to this day is you've got to do it best, you've got to do it first, or you've got to do it different.
Right.
If you don't do one of those, don't waste your time. So early on, it was like, I got real hooked on the adrenaline of, oh, we're the first person to do a coverage on this thing. So you have an automatic in. And I know I'll never be best because there's always someone better. You're always striving to do something better.
Sure.
But one of the most gratifying things, you ask, what do I enjoy the most? One of the most gratifying things was a few years ago. It used to be, I would see people comment, hey, are you going to review this thing? Are you going to review this thing? And so they were asking because they wanted information. And now I've started to see they're not so much interested in the review. They actually care what my review is.
Sure.
And that only comes with, I work really hard to respond to all the comments that I can. I read, internalize what people are saying, and collectively understand what's resonating and what's not. But ultimately, when I hear feedback that my opinions or my analyses of a thing has helped bring back a memory, or help them make a purchasing decision, or brought back a memory of the ones that make me cry. I used to play this game with my mom. It goes on. I'm like, oh God, that's fantastic. I brought that memory back to you, but you can't plan those kind of things. The most gratifying thing is seeing it resonate with someone.
Sure. It means they're listening. It means they're paying attention. They're not just, hey, cool video, thanks for that. I remember that. No. When you get someone who takes the time to write to you, to post to you, to comment for you in that fashion, they listened. And they didn't watch it once. They watched it 6 times because it brought back that feeling. That's a huge thing for sure. Is there anybody you'd like to have on your show? Is there any white whales out there that you would like probably 3 or 4 people you'd love to get on your program to talk about, the old days and how it plugs into video games and retro toys? Are there people still around that you'd like to knock on their door and ask if you could have some of their time?
Yeah, I've had real good luck with a lot of the founding fathers of video gaming. I mean, literally the folks that were there forming Activision, immigrating from Atari, who were there working for Atari. I've had a wonderful pleasure of I can call Howard Scott Warshaw, who worked at Atari and did Yar's Revenge and E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's a friend, right? I can talk to him if I need. I don't bug him, but I can, some folks from Activision. But I mentioned my second favorite game that vacillates between Yar's Revenge is Adventure. And Warren Robinette his story is remarkable, and I would love to talk directly with him about it. And I've tried multiple times to reach out to him, because whenever I first meet these guys and talk to them, most important thing I want to say is listen, you are one of the principal architects of my childhood.
Yeah.
And my formative years. It's and they get it by now. Enough people have told them, but I'm not going to not tell them. And Warren Robinette, I can't tell you how many days I spent running from that bat and beating those dragons who look like ducks in the pulp of the store. The era it was so important to me. And I would like to talk to him as a human being and go, what does it mean to you? Like, to know that people care that much about something you did 45 years ago. It's
What a
got to
great
be remarkable.
question. Yeah, that would be a great question to ask that guy. You know, they didn't, back then they had no idea what they were, the dominoes that they were tipping over in the beginning. They're doing their job, they're doing what they're passionate about. And every one of them would say, we had no idea that, 40 years later, we'd be this important in the stream of how all this developed. But
and they were largely disrespected in their time. When they were doing that, they were treated poorly. They didn't get the kind of revenue or profit sharing that they should, and that kind of thing. They were just, at one point, Atari management told them, you're no more important than the guy that puts it in the box.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Exactly. And so now to be revered as someone who I would die to talk to, I would think that's got to mean something to some of these guys,
It would have to be, I mean, I'm sure, like you said, they've heard it 1,000 times, but I'm sure they want to hear it one more. Why wouldn't they? I would, because let's face it, the older we all get, the fewer of us there are around, and the even fewer of them that are around. I mean, you only get so many laps around the sun before you to talk to somebody.
Gen X is a diminishing commodity.
Absolutely.
They're not making new ones.
No, no, they're not. No reproductions here at all. That's a true damn story. I hope you get the chance to do that. I hope some of those things fall into place over the next year or so. That'd be fascinating. You got just the right angle and enough experience in real life and doing this to ask the right questions at the right time. I think that would be great. I wish there was a way to help you with that. I just don't. I don't know anybody in that area, and I don't live in that area. I don't live where they live. Yeah. But my God,
I've tried. I just don't think he's interested in talking about it because he's out there, and I've peppered him here and there, but I'm not going to pester the man. He's got his privacy.
Yeah,
I respect him either way.
So if you had to talk, speaking about video creators and versus Atari, the management versus programmers, and I mean, I guess there was always, I would realize there was a divide, but didn't realize that they were treated that way until you mentioned it to me. But when I think at some point management had to cross over and say, you know what, good programmers, good creators are important, and I would wave the ET flag in their face and say, how'd that work out for you? We've all heard that story, and I've had my kids come up and say, oh, I saw this documentary about ET and they had to go dig him up in a landfill. And was it really that bad of a game? I go, it sucked. It was a horrible game. I didn't enjoy that game at all. My cousin and I got that game we played it, I don't know, about a week. And I'm like, this is just dumb. I mean, it was difficult and there wasn't anything to it. And other than the fact that you were playing the ET game was about the biggest thing was you could say you were playing it by name. That was it. I don't know how you felt about that. What was your experience with ET?
Well, I'll tell you, one of my valued treasures that they can pry out of my cold dead fingers is I have one of the ET cartridges recovered from the Alamogordo excavation you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah, I specifically, they got all kinds of stuff out of there, but I wanted ET. That was kind of the poster child for the video game crash of 1983, where the entire video game market in North America saw a 96% decline over the course of one calendar year.
Yeah. Jesus.
So that's what it took for Atari to realize. Basically, they had to fold to realize that developers were important. As to what I thought of ET at the time, I'll tell you, I actually enjoyed it because I read the instructions. I had foregone instructions most of my life, and for whatever reason, well, I know it's a longer story, but I ended up with the instructions before I got the game, so I read them.
Who reads instructions?
Well, here's the thing.
12 years old or 11 years old, who's reading?
I get it. Oh, for kids, right. The game E.T. did things that no one else had done before, where there were certain areas on the screen that did different things. You had to be at a certain place at a certain time, and it just wasn't a video game that people were accustomed to. Where do I jump? How do I shoot? Why am I falling in a hole?
Right.
And it was truly ahead of its time. And I'm not saying that you can go back and play it now and love it necessarily, because it's still hobbled by the inferior hardware of the Atari. But what was done with that game was under a time crunch and too ambitious for probably what the platform could have done. So I understand, but I'm happy to have one.
John, that's strike two. Okay.
There we go.
They went with the whole Pac-Man thing. I thought I was going to get you on the same page there. You didn't. That's a swing and a miss in my book. And
all right,
you fouled one off into the bleachers behind you with the ET one. So that's two.
All right.
Now you get strike three, John. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just going to pull the plug on the interview. We're done here.
Fair enough.
I can't do it anymore.
You've warned me.
I'll tell you, we're talking about asteroids a bit ago. I got a dumb asteroid story that I don't know much about. Upright games when you in the arcade. You know, I'm not sure if those were. I got to say, at some degree, different programmers doing different things. Maybe some of them overlapped. I don't know, and I don't know what their distribution cycle was. You know, they didn't seem to come out with so many games. The first 4 or 5 years didn't seem to come out with so many games so fast that you got sick of them. I grew up at that time, so in 1980. We got our first Chuck E. Cheese. I lived in the suburbs of Los Angeles, so we got a lot of everything. You know, the music, the movies, the TV shows, the commercials, anything came out. It came to us first. It felt like. You know, I talked.
You're probably a test audience. You probably got stuff that didn't go anywhere else in some cases.
I would talk to cousins that I had in Idaho, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" They have any idea about certain things, and so I thought, all right, well, you know, we're getting everything here. And a dumb story. I went to. Prescott, Arizona, as they say down there. And I guess this was maybe spring of 81. And I was in a Safeway coming out with my parents doing something. And there was one video game, and it was called Deluxe Asteroids. I'd never seen it before. I'd been to I've been to the arcades all over LA and every Chuck E. Cheese, never seen it. And I tried to come back to my friends at school and tell them what I saw. We were down there for a week on, you know, vacation or something. I guess it was probably, I don't know when it was, what we were doing down there, but relatives, and no one believed me. I was like, no, it's an upright game. It's a game, and you could quarters and it's asteroids, but you had a shield and it was a little bit more green, and no one believed me. And then years later, somebody says, oh yeah, they test them in very obscure places. They'll put them up to see what reactions are, and I didn't know that. I was wondering if they did that with video games too. If they did that back in the day when you and I were kids, did they have test audiences like that anywhere for games when we were growing up? That maybe you'd know about it now, but I didn't know about it then.
They definitely did. Most assuredly, yeah. There are several games that only were 1 or 2 cabinets were made, and they were put out to see what kind of reaction there was.
Really?
And now we're just still recovering some of those games. Someone just recently was able to recover. Like a drum rhythm game, like a rock band sort of game that Atari put out one machine for at a trade show to see what the reaction was. And we still find those today. And I'll tell you what else we still find that's pretty amazing is all those developers who worked for Atari or wherever in the 80s, you know, late 70s, everything they didn't get released. And just in the last 2 years, people have bought lots of stuff that came from someone's garage who used to work for Atari. And look, here's this game that was finished for the Atari that never came out.
Really?
We've come across some that effectively could have been a launch title for the game, but for the fact that they decided to not make it stereo, and this game required left and right sound to work.
Wow.
Finished games. And now years later, because it's retro and it's a big deal. So somebody wants it.
Yeah.
And we're able to discover stuff that you never would have had our hands on because Atari was the gatekeeper. And now they're just old ROM chips sitting in someone's garage, and we get to play them, all of us, because they're digitally grabbed.
Unbelievable. I see. There's probably like some central hub, a website, or somebody who covers that stuff. But I've never even heard of that. I didn't even know that was a thing going on. That's incredible.
Mark, it's called Gen X Grown Up.
Oh, hang on. Let me get a pen.
Would you jot that down?
I'm gonna write that down real quick.
Yeah. Well, I use that example. That was literally when that came out. I was tickled to death. I did 2 videos in a row on it. This is a game you never had before. Could have been a launch title. It's remarkable.
Well, John, apologies for not cramming in every episode of your show.
Well, there's only a couple thousand. By all means, you should get busy on that.
Well, I'll tell you, that's where do you see yourself going from here? I mean, you know, I want to tell you something. Let me back up. I watched one of your interviews with now I'm going to mess up his last name. It was Vincent
Ferrari.
Vincent Ferrari. And I watched most of one interview, skimmed through parts of it, running out of time. But One of the things that you said to me had me glued to the screen when you were talking about trying to make a decision on what you would do, and you said, "Well, my company made the decision for me. They let me go," and then
Yeah.
you had an option of what to do from there.
Yeah.
But you sat down and so fluently described what it's like to, well, every day you put out a video every day, and then you realize that's not really what you're going with. It doesn't really work, and you got to find out what works, and then you got to focus on what's getting you someplace and what's not getting you anywhere. And you try to narrow things down. And you said, I spend 16 hours a day because I do all the video and the production, and I try to get the podcast, and then I got to go to all the comment section. I try to acknowledge everyone's comment. I'm raising my hand while I'm watching this, going, me too.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm telling you,
I know you do.
I wrote some notes down that I got to rethink when we're done with this interview. I told my wife, I go, when we're done with this, there's some stuff this guy said in this interview over here that we need to talk about. We need to take this into consideration because you've already laid out the roadmap. I just needed to pay attention to it and plug in my surroundings and follow it. You've already done that. But the thing you didn't cover in Vincent's interview, because I went to the end, is I didn't get a whole sense of where you think you'd like to be or where you could be a year from now or 2 years from now. If things go well the way you want them to, where do you see yourself?
Yeah. Something you mentioned just struck a chord with me that I don't know if you found this and you're digging, but since the day I was laid off, I started doing a daily video blog on a separate channel. I do it every day, every morning. I did it right up until the day I ended up in the hospital 2 years ago. And the day I got out, I did one, and it really is a living document. You said, I laid out the roadmap. Well, I'm walking down the road still, right? I'm still trying to get there. And each day I talk about what I did yesterday, what the results of it were, what I'm going to try to do next. It's a breathing document of how this progress is going. So, but to get directly to your question, I had a good paying job, and I was most frightened not taking another good paying job, that what would happen to me would be I would burn through my savings and I'd be destitute and I'd have to take whatever the first job is. And I'm not embarrassed to dig ditches if I have to, but I was a professional. Those skills and those connections, they deteriorate when you're not in the market any longer. The day I left, people were knocking on my door. After 3 or 4 times and no, thank you, they stopped pulling the chair out. So now you don't have that safety net. But what I found out pretty quickly, as I worked hard with the support of my friends that I mentioned and my co-hosts that work with me on a volunteer basis to try to make me successful, is I've stopped pulling money out of savings. I want my endeavor, Gen X Grown Up and whatever associate things that we do, to be able to support the three of us, because we have different skills. I have a money man who's a financial business guy. I have my other friend Mo, who does project management and an organizational wizard, and I have my production things. It's not unheard of to have a small team of people that are able to run a small little media company that handles and can support those people. And I found out I don't need to make the money that I was making. I really thought I did. You always kind of grow to live within the means. You'll spend all the money they pay you if you can,
Every time. Yeah.
But I have found that I'm living very meager. I used to just buy whatever toy I wanted. Now I kind of don't. Good news is they mail them to me now, so I get them for free sometimes.
There's a trade-off. I like it.
I want to be able to repay all of the people and kindness that have helped me get how far I am now, who believed in me and said, yeah, we're going to help you. I don't want to fail them. I want to be able to be successful enough to go, and now you're quitting your job and you're quitting your job.
I get that.
And we're going to do this together, like you've been volunteering so far along. I don't want their effort for me to have been not fruitful.
Yeah. Or you don't want them to ever feel like it was one-sided, because that's not how you feel. But for a while, that's how it is. But it's not how you feel. But so you get a chance to repay it, you want to.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So where is that the only goal, or do you want to just have a small media outlet?
Look, in the midst of that, I'm going to continue to make videos that I care about, not just because it's paying the bills, right? And that comes with a following. I mentioned it went from, I'm no longer doing it first, I'm doing it different of those three now. So that doing it different has allowed me to grow an audience that is now paying my mortgage and my phone bill.
100% you're doing it different. I mean, it really strikes,
Yeah.
and I'm in this business with you, and I go, this is different. This is not normal. This is not the cookie cutter stuff at all. It's
A
really
great friend of
something.
mine was at a convention with me, and the most recently last year, and so many people recognized me. Just now, it was a loaded deck. I'm at a nerd convention. I'm a nerd, so they're gonna be there, right?
Yeah.
But lots of people came up. Oh man, I watch your show. I really love what you do here. Blah 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 blah. They'll mention this thing. Can I get a selfie? All that. And my friend said, "Man, that must really inflate your ego and make you feel really good about that." And I said, "Yes and no. It feels good, but doesn't make me feel good personally. It's validating. It feels good, like my work is recognized.
Right. Yeah.
You see my face and associate with my work, and you're appreciating it and engaging with the work.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't feel famous. I feel that the work I did is seen and recognized, and that is famous." So I said, "Yeah, it feels good, but for not the reason you think. It's not me personally. It's the validation that you get from knowing, it's working. Somebody's hearing it and seeing it and enjoying it. It means something to them. It's not just AI slop that somebody's cranking out. It's
That's
something
right.
that has a soul."
I feel the same way with you do. I just every now and then I had met someone a fan of the programs the other day, and he mentioned, he goes, "I really loved this episode," but he picked one from like 2 years ago, and I'm like, "Really? There's nothing bad. That's it. 2 years ago, huh? Okay. So that's nothing since then." And he goes, "No, no, that was the greatest one." I'm like, "All right, well." So I'm driving home thinking, "God, I really got something. What did I have done wrong? Nothing in 2 years." That was my last one that someone took notice of. But I guess I take it too much to heart, and then I run around trying to pencil scratch things and improve on stuff. But I know you go down that road too. When you're doing what you do 16 hours a day, you're constantly questioning yourself, probably all the time, on what's next. Well, John, thank you for taking time. I really appreciate you
Man.
letting everybody know kind of how you got here and what you're involved in. I'm going to push everybody towards Gen X Grown Up is a big thing. I want them to be part of the celebrating yesteryear. I need them to get the whole experience. If you want to send me a couple links to anything you want, if there's a homepage where they can get to your vlog and they can get to that, I promise you I'll just link them to that. They can pick and choose what they watch. Because nothing that you guys out there in radio and TV land, if I give you a main link to his page, I don't have to steer you around. Everything he does is entertaining. Everything he does is informative. You're going to find something in everything John does to bring it around like, okay, I'm putting this on my list. It's going to be on your list. You're going to follow. You're going to subscribe. It's a big thing. John, is there anything else you want to say closing up? Anything I can plug for you? Any places you going or coming up in person events or something?
I have a follow-up question for you.
All right.
I work with these collaborators on Gen X Grown Up. I have these two good friends, and that ends up being a sort of a marriage, like being in a band or something.
Sure.
What motivated you to determine that you're going to start building your empire co-hosting with your wife? That must be challenging to do because it's two different kinds of attachments and marriages and commitments.
It is. I'll tell you what the short version is, because this is my interview about you, John. You're not interviewing me, man. This is me interviewing you. But out of respect for you, because I love all your stuff, I will deign with one question.
Well, thank you.
I've known my wife since we were 5 years old. We were not high school sweethearts. In fact, she didn't like me at all in high school. But we've known each other our whole lives. Our families have known each other pretty much their whole lives. We are an exact match. She is like the female version of me. We like the same music, the same movies, the same football and sports. We grew up in a few blocks from each other, going to school together. So culturally, we are like a perfect match. There's nothing that I like. I don't love golf and she hates it. Nothing like that. So when we started doing this, it was really our son who started Gen X Talks when he wanted to be TikTok famous with his ambush videos. That's where he grew the millions of followers, was from his ambush videos, which he still does from time to time. Like you said in one of your interviews, you said, shorts get you noticed, but they don't make you any money. And that's right. You were exactly right. So the shorts, keep your name out there, keep where people recognize what you're doing, and then you can bring them into the other things that you want to share with them. The podcast I do with her, which is one of our fastest growing parts for the past 3 or 4 years now, is we just let people in on what we would be talking around a kitchen table. On podcast day, we don't speak to each other in the morning at all. We don't talk. And then when we record it, it is fresh, brand new with maybe just 5 or 6 notes. And we argue. She beats the shit out of me for an hour on everything stupid. She goes, quit drawing on the shower doors. And I'm like, I'm inventing stuff here, man. I got to get it down. Then I got to get a picture of it on the shower door. You're messing everything up. You can't do that. And it's husband and wife in our generation, in yours and my generation, on on how we view things. We talk about a news article briefly, talk about what's going on in the news, but it's always through the lens of kind of a Generation X family, like the mother of kids, like, well, I don't like what's going on in this state with these schools. I'm a parent. You have that. Everything has a little bit of that Gen X lens that we do everything through, and we banter back and forth. And sometimes we agree, and sometimes we don't. But when we're done, it's almost like we went to a therapy session, but it was for free. We didn't have to pay $300 an hour for marriage counseling. I think that's the reason it works for us on our end. Other than that, if they sat me down and said, we're paying you $50 to argue with this lady, I would have strangled her a long time ago. Or her me.
Well, it really comes across and it feels like I shouldn't be there sometimes, like maybe they didn't edit this out, huh? Fascinating.
We get that a lot because there are times, I'll be honest, John, there's times where we argue about something, we're like, oh shit, we're live, because we have a radio station, so we do it live for people the day before, and they listen to it absolutely uncensored, uncut.
Okay.
They tune in to listen to it. We just broadcast it, and then we'll take some stuff out later that we probably shouldn't have said. But yeah, we get lost sometimes. We forget that we really go down a rabbit hole of a married couple. And it does feel like you're not supposed to be there sometimes.
And I like that about it. I like how it feels unfiltered, though you're telling me there might be a filter by the time it gets to me edited, but it largely feels unfiltered, and it's a little bit voyeuristic, but still entertaining because it does have the structure, so I like
it does have a little bit of, there's a little bit of framework there, but she's my best friend, and it's like 2 guys hanging out at a bar having beer, except one of them's female, and she gives as much as she gets. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, John, hey, if there's nothing else I can promote for you, I want you to make sure you give me that link, or you can say it right now. Anybody, is there a main page where everybody can get to all of your stuff?
genxgrownup.com is our main website. It has links to almost all of the media that we publish under Gen X Grown Up. As you noted, we're 1980s now and celebrating yesteryear as well, but you'll see links around. It's easy to find them once you find Gen X Grown Up, and you'll find links out to those because they're referenced.
So just start there. Everybody out there listening, just start at genxgrownup.com. Start there. Any place that you see John's name's John Reddick, his name in there, click subscribe, click follow. Just do it. It doesn't cost you a thing. It's big for his algorithms. And have I ever pointed you guys to a product or some information or a video that was a waste of your time? Not one time ever, because I very rarely do it. And when I do it, I'm telling you, it counts for something. Look, I've done all the preliminary homework. All right, I've done it. I've drugged my knees and my knuckles through all the stuff here to present something good to you. I wouldn't do it unless it was top notch. And John, everything you got is literally top shelf. Everything you have your hands in right now.
Well, that's incredibly kind of you. And I'm very grateful that you took the opportunity to sit down and chat with me. It's just, whenever I get a chance to sit and talk, especially with other creators who understand that mentality, it's like not only we're having a chat about what we're having a chat about, but we're also commiserating, and we're also kind of, as we're looking on the video chat, I can smile and nod, see it in your eye, like, oh yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. That's nice too.
I want to know if I want to do something. We do a weird thing as part of Gen X Talks that every now and then I will take some jingles from when you and I were growing up, some TV show intros, little snippets of it, not the whole thing, and of course music. And I call people up at random. We record it so we can just put it out there for people to listen to. You can't really put it up on YouTube because you get copyright infringement, but I can put it up other places where people can have a good time listening to it. If I called you ahead of time or texted you ahead of time and had where you had a little free time, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, would you mind me calling you? You don't get to know what we're talking about, but could I call you with some Generation X trivia? Let you play along with us?
Sure, of course.
I would love to do that. I would love to call you up and play some things for you and let you see if you can identify some sounds and some music and some jingles and some commercials and intros and stuff, just to see how well you do. Put you up against our studio audience, which we don't have.
Great.
Hey, John, I'm going to go. Say goodbye to everybody, John.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for listening in. That was John Reddick. He's involved in Gen X Grown Up, celebrating yesteryear and so many other things. He's, like I said, I earned my $12 today. So Will Padilla, you owe me $12. That check better be in the mail, buddy, because I did the interview before you paid me. But I told you I would. You guys got to check out his stuff, genxgrownup.com. Start there. Work your way around all of his things. It's time for me to get out of here. Thank you guys for listening in. Not sure where you're listening in from around the planet, AM, FM, Sirius XM, or perhaps you tuned in on the Armed Service Radio Network. Remember two things in life. Number one, wherever you go, well, there you are. Number two, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. I'm out. I got to go.